Carlton King, former Scotland Yard Special Branch and MI6 officer and the author of Black Ops.
I was undercover for Special Branch in a jihadi organisation.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for free.
My name is Carlton King, and welcome to the Black Spy podcast, the show which shines a light on the world of secret intelligence, national security, and armed governmental personal protection operations, but also looks into the everyday world of geopolitics and what surrounds us. The people who we talk to are generally not necessarily, and often not indeed, in the game of secret intelligence, national security or personal protection, but everyday individuals who've done something which is often unique, which is often the way they've done their work. And this is no exception. Indeed, this is part two. If you listened to last week, you'll know that this week we've got back with us Trevor Williams. People may know him from that group Spookey way back in the 70s. So that's people who are old. But what I think I've uncovered is actually something more important than that. It's really the fact that these were the guys who were bringing British soul out. These were the guys, the forerunners. So I've got Trevor on there. I can see here he's got himself a little bit of a cough today. So let's hope we get past his cough. I'm sure we will.
We shall.
Yeah, no problem, my good friend. You know, this is real life. So, you know, you got a cough, you got a cough. Hopefully we'll get ourselves through. This is what happens sometimes to musicians. They get the voice starts rolling.
Yeah.
That's the one. Trevor, how are you today, good bud? You well?
I'm all right, thank you.
It's not COVID, is it?
No. How are you, Carlton?
No. I'm good, mate. I'm very, very good. I'm raring to go. I'm just going to give viewers who didn't listen to part one, who, by the way, should go back to part one, always available on the Black Spy podcast. Go back to part one and listen to it. But if you didn't, just give you a quick overview of part one. Basically, we learnt that Trevor was born in the United Kingdom, parents who came from Jamaica, one-time British colony, part of the British Empire for 400 years. So basically, when his parents came here, they were coming to the United Kingdom as basically Brits who were living in part of the empire. So they saw it as the mother country. What we learned was the surprise of his parents when it wasn't exactly what they thought the mother country would be. We also learned the prejudice that happened in that particular era. Yeah, it's not fully dismantled, but the prejudice of that era was completely different. I mean, massively so. We learned that you could see, and the young Trevor saw in his eyes as a young guy growing up there in the 1950s, late 50s, early 60s. We saw him that he saw signs saying no Irish, no dogs, no blacks, and that the no dogs and Irish were optional, but it seemed always to be no blacks. We learned how his mother, a very wise woman, basically created her own industry and saw that hairdressing was required, particularly amongst the black community. Nobody was doing it, or few were. Of course, we learned why, that you couldn't get the funds from banks, etc., to set up. So she was smart enough to take part in a system called Party, which people put all their money together and allowed an individual to get a leg up, which is, you know, people might not know that. That's how you had to work, because the banks wouldn't give you any money oftentimes if you were black. We learned that his dad, a hard-working guy, worked very, very hard and basically wanted the young Trevor to follow in his footsteps, get into the factory, get some work done, work for a living. Trevor wanted to work for a living, but he had his eyes set on something else. We learned how he, at a young age, 14, 15, 16, took up the guitar, started plucking around with it, and then said he wants to be a pop star. Everybody's dream, but he was going to make it happen. And he wanted to basically start British soul group. And he did that with his mates. And we learned how he had some element of success and then went on to what was probably the biggest talent show in the United Kingdom. I mean, getting viewing figures larger than viewing figures today. Today's viewing figures for a top show, somebody said last week the top show in America took 10 million. Well, this show was getting 20 million viewers every week. It was called Opportunity Knocks. And we also learned how it wasn't as straight, I won't spoil it for people listening, but wasn't as straight as it was supposed to be. So maybe not the best opportunity did win. So we learned that. And then we learned how Trevor and the band had become a little bit of a success, had a top 40 single. And then we learned how he turned up in his local area in a limousine. And I love that bit. And all of a sudden, from Trevor in the streets, you got Trevor the star. So that's where we are, Trevor. I'd love you to continue from that. I just want to ask you one quick question. When you turned up in that limo on your street, how did you feel?
I felt I was on top of the world. It felt really good. Like I said, I've gone from people just saying hi to me like we do all friendly things with my guitar in my hand, in my case, walking all miles in the rain just to get to practice. And then within like 2-3 years, I'm getting out of a limo outside my house or driving down and telling the chauffeur just to drive around my side so everyone can see me.
Brilliant. So, what was it, mate? What was it? Was it a Mercedes or what was the limo? What was it?
The limo was a Daimler, black Daimler.
A Daimler?
Yeah, black Daimler. And I remember they dropping us all off one by one, but we made them drive around my side in town first because we could. And hanging out the windows, people seeing us.
Oh, brilliant! Brilliant.
Those were the days.
Yeah. So that was all 8 of you inside the old Daimler.
Yeah.
So it's a stretch one then, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a stretch one.
Big
Oh,
stretch,
brilliant.
that one.
Fantastic. And was the driver, was he in livery? Did he have his old chauffeur's cap on and the like? So?
Yeah, everything. The full,
it's full Monty. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Now, let me ask you a question on that. So who's paying for that limo?
We are paying.
Yeah. Did you know you were paying for it?
Yeah, like I said, we were savvy as hell because we'd learnt from the other bands.
Yeah.
We've learnt from people talking to us. So we knew whatever we earned, it was all coming out of. We was under no illusions about that.
Got you.
But we that's what we expected. We didn't expect to people pay our way. We was going to pay our own way, pay what we need to do and get to where we want to get. Focused, single-minded, period.
Brilliant. Now, tell me something else, Trev. Who were the bands who you was kind of hooking up with? Were the kind of bands that you knew and you all spoke together? Because you said you spoke with other bands. Give me some sort of names. Who were you?
Okay. There was a few groups knocking around Manchester, about 4 or 5 groups. The lads were like between 7 and 10 years older than us.
Right.
So some of them lads were my brother's friends and the bandmates' friends.
Yeah.
So they would talk to my brother. I would talk to them. I would talk to my friends' brothers, and their brothers got new people in bands. So it just all like we all knew each other. We all grew up, even though they were like 10 years older than us. We kind of knew them. So to name a few, there was Decision. There was people like Harlem Spirit. There was quite a few bands.
So they were all sort of soul bands, or some reggae bands, some funk bands.
Some were reggae, some were soul. I can envisage about 8 bands, but I just can't remember all of them now.
Yeah. Did you ever hook up with sort of rock bands from that sort of era, or you were completely different?
The only time we linked up with rock bands was when we was on the road.
Yeah.
And and they was on the same bill as us, so we were supporting a rock band. I mean, we supported people like Mud, Show Waddy Waddy. Yeah, don't laugh.
So, now this is interesting because Showaddy Waddy were very, very big, as were Mud. Yeah, so very, very big.
So were Flying Picket.
Yeah. So how did they treat you, these guys?
Well, back in the day, before we started, it was really prejudiced. They tried to make sure that the supporting bands didn't do as well as they did as the main band. They used to mess with the equipment and everything. But by my era now, we're onto it.
Yeah.
So people weren't so prejudiced then, you know what I mean? They didn't mess with your stuff. They didn't mess with your sounding. They just took it on the chin if you was better than them. Back in the day, that was unheard of. And a few times we have been the better band because we just was. And they came up and shook our hands and congratulated us. But we didn't think we'd do anything special. We would say, nah, you were the best band sort of thing, because we didn't think it was any special. We're just going on the job, do what we've got to do to get where we're going. We're not interested in anybody else. And we would never try to downplay anybody. We didn't have to because we were better than everybody else. That was mentally.
Yeah.
Whether or not
so when you see, because what's surprising me is I did a Showaddy Waddy do from the other side, not even DJing. In those days, I was a kung fu man, and I used to train a lot of bouncers. I was only a young fella, probably about 16, and I used to train a lot of bouncers in kung fu. And these guys, they really, bouncers in those days were just thugs, to be fair, and that's why I stopped training them. And I can remember cuts on the faces, etc., etc. So on this one, they said, "Oh, it's Showaddy Waddy coming to Manchester. Would you come down and be another bouncer?" So I said, "Oh, okay. What do you have to wear like?" So they said, "Oh, you have to wear a suit and that." And so anyway, I went down there. I didn't have all the proper gear like they had, and they gave me a dicky board and something like that.
Yeah.
So I go down there with them, and practically everybody there is like a rocker. So what I'm asking you is, when you're playing with Showaddy Waddy, all their fans turn up because they have a massive fan base. All their fans and they're all rockers. How do they take to you being a soul band? The fans, this is.
Well, they were kind of already geared, G'd up, because there was like maybe 2 or 3 bands. There was someone on before us. It was just starting. There was us who was, halfway starting, so to speak, on our way, just trying to get exposure. And we were the type of band that within 2 years we'd gone everywhere, all over Europe, 15, 16 different countries. Yeah. Even before we caught a record, we was all over the shop, just trying to expose. That was our advertising then. There was no internet, right? We had to get boots on grounds, flyers, posters, you name it. Yeah.
So in other words, you know how to play a crowd is what you're saying. So even though the crowd wasn't your crowd, you know how to play it.
Yeah. But invariably, people could, they've come to see their main group. Someone's on the stage, high energy, soul music, dancing, putting a show on. As long as the music is good, they'll have a shindig, they'll have a dance.
Yeah, brilliant. No, that's fantastic. So you've now got to number 3 in Huey Green's show, Opportunity Knocks. You've seen TV Land. You've now got this platform that you would never have had before. What did that do, number 1, to your earnings? What did that do to your standing? So you're now able to play better clubs, or you're able to be the top of the bill? How did that work?
You're correct. We were able now, with making a record shortly after as well, coincided.
That's right.
We was able now to get better money, demand better places, better concerts, better venues. Sometimes we were top of the bill. Even though we had a record, sometimes still we was like under the top of the bill. Sylvester came to England one time.
You make me feel mighty real.
You made me feel him. Yeah. We toured with him for a bit. Heatwave came to Manchester, England. But we didn't do the full tour with him. But if there was like in the Northwest, we'd do like 4 dates with him in the Northwest.
Brilliant.
And somebody else would take things like that. We've gone from like probably £1,000 a gig to like $4 or $5 a gig.
Right,
Off
so
the
let's
top of the head,
contextualise
off the top
that.
of the
Let's
head,
put that in
bro.
context. The problem is you've got 8 players, but £4,000 a gig back in what's this? Is this 1980?
1980s, yeah.
1980, so what, 83, 84?
No, 80, about 80.
1980, full stop 80.
Yeah, 'cause
Right, so if
about
that's
we
£4
started-
grand in 1980, that's good money. There's no doubt in that. That's good money.
And we kind of started, like I said, when we were 16, actually started playing together as a band. So by 1979, 1980, about 4 years, within 3 years, 3.5 years, we was on telly and had our first single.
So you're 21, 4,000 a night, between 8, 500 quid a night. Obviously, manager takes his cut. Still not bad money when the average wage is probably about 80 quid in your age.
Yeah, but after everything, we're probably going on with about 250, 300.
Yeah. Good money, mate. So you're on top of the world.
We're on top of the world. So now we just have to hope that the record does well. And if it doesn't go well, we dropped basically. That was the thinking. If you don't do well, you'll get dropped. No more pop star. So you just have to hope, don't you, that your record does well, and the people that are behind the success of the records and that are doing their jobs. We're doing our job by getting everywhere, playing everywhere, doing well. We're expecting the A&R man.
I was just going to say, Trev, can you explain when you say the people behind it? Because people don't understand. Okay. You can play a great song, you can do fantastic, but you depend on the A&R and everything else. Can you explain how that functions for people?
When you sign to a recording company, they assign someone to you to look after you, get you, try and do things, make you get there, get programs, get new telly. We've done telly before, opportunity now, but little programs and things like that up in Scotland, Wales, you name it. Even done an advert. So we knew about telly. So in the record industry, we didn't know anything. So this guy would tell us what's going on, what he's doing for us, and he was really enthusiastic about the band. You know, when you know somebody's got the band at heart.
Yes.
So they gave a guy called Mick McDonough. They gave us him, and then you have to rely on the agency to do their job, and you have to rely on a manager to do his job.
Yeah. So did it go right then, or did it go wrong somewhere with all these moving parts?
Right. We got the first record, like I said, and then it's on the radio for a while, and then it don't do anything. So we're going in now for negotiations on the second record. You know, they allow you one flop, you know what I mean? Nothing's perfect. See how you do on your second one.
Sorry again, Trev, what are we calling a flop? Because you got to top 40. So is that a flop to them?
Well, no. If top 40 is a flop to them, they probably wouldn't have let us do another single.
Right. So they didn't see it as a full flop then.
And even if you didn't get in the top 40, they'd still try with us again. You know what I mean? It's the first one.
Yeah.
But to us, it wasn't a flop.
Yes.
It's a mindset. And then I was really, with them saying to us that we're going to do another, we're thinking, well, they're happy with us.
Right.
But they might not have been happy with us, but think, let's try again. They've invested money. We're not bad lads. You never know. All we knew that it didn't do well, as we wanted it to, but the recording company was sticking with us. Fine. Let's have another go. So we weren't really down at it because we didn't expect miracles at the beginning. We weren't pie in the sky guys thinking like that. We were just down to earth, know what we had to do. This didn't work. We'll regroup. And they got us another producer then. The guy who produced the first record was from a guy called Ben Finlan, as I said. The Nolan sisters, he produced them a lot, and they were quite famous. Dooley family. And so they tried the guy who wrote for The Real Thing.
Which is going to be better, surely.
Yeah, which is, I remember his name in a minute. He said, what age does to you?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I know him myself. Yeah.
Ken Gold, his name. That's it, Ken Gold.
Oh, Okay, did he have a hit by himself, Ken Gold?
Ken Gold was a writer.
Did he have a hit later though, singing one hit?
He doesn't
Never Let Her
sing.
Die. Never Let Her Die, was that him?
I don't remember him singing.
Oh, okay. No problem.
He was just a producer, and he actually wrote the 2 songs for Real Thing, You To Me Are Everything, and someone
Great
else. When he was supposed to do the third one called Someone Ought to Write a Song About You, sorry. The first 2 was You To Me Are Everything, and there was another one that came after. But Someone Ought to Write a Song About You was going to be their 3rd single, but they turned it down because they were big.
Yeah.
They turned it down and said, we want to do our own thing. And the recording company said, oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Where if it wasn't big, the recording company would have said, no, well, you've got to stick with this one for now. You didn't do too well. But if you're doing well, they don't argue. You know, the better you do, the more power you've got to speak to them and, you know, more pull.
Yeah.
So they decided to give us that record. That's how Someone Ought to Write a Song About You came about.
Yeah.
And that didn't do anything.
Right, did nothing at all?
That did nothing at all, to my knowledge. But in between the first record and second record, things started to go bad in the recording department.
How so?
In the recording, the guy Mick McDonough, who was assigned to us, he left.
Right.
So we got another guy now who wasn't into the band whatsoever, thought we was rubbish. And how we know this, when things weren't, nothing was happening, and we're asking questions, even Bob's asking questions, thinking, why this? It come to a head, and we was all in the office one day meeting this new A&R man. His name was Jonathan King. You might be familiar.
Jonathan King?
Yeah, Jonathan King.
No,
yeah.
not the Jonathan King. The Jonathan in prison paedophile King.
That's what.
Oh, no.
He turned around, when we pressured him, he turned around and said, to tell the truth, lads, I don't like the band. I think you're rubbish. And, I'm not interested. For all I care, you can just go.
So, right, let me get to the bottom of this, though, now. Let me get to the bottom of it, because this is important. So one guy loves you. Is it because he loves you because he thinks the band's great? Is it because he thinks the band's sound genre is great? Or is it a mixture of both? And Jonathan King hates you. Is it because he thinks the band's not great? I'm talking about the look now, the band, etc., etc. Or is it because he thinks that the genre of the band, the soul music the band's playing, is not great? Because he had his own little hit, didn't he, with Johnny Reggae, didn't he, going back? Yeah. So he clearly had some idea that he thought reggae-ish type pretend reggae was all right. But did he have anything for soul? So that's my question. What was the reasoning for him not liking it? Did he tell you?
Well, he didn't say, but from what I know now or what I witnessed, he was a racist.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Mick McDonough, whether they liked soul music, because the A&R people, they're not necessarily in soul. He could have been in heavy rock.
Sure. Yeah. I'm just wondering.
He's got a job to do. Yeah. And his job was to promote Spookey so that they can have a better life and the recording company can make some money.
Money, absolutely. Yeah.
So he just focused on that. He's probably that good that somebody else poached him.
Yeah.
Because we were really flying. We had all that good feeling. And as soon as he's gone, like the mood dropped, everything dropped. So when we're asking questions and trying to get things, seeing what's going on, we've just got a brick wall. And I remember sitting there thinking, how can one man decide what happens to our band? Is not the recording company going to say anything? Because obviously the recording company think we're okay.
That's going to be my question. Trevor.
And they've signed us. So are they going to let this man just throw us away? Apparently, yes. Yeah, what he said in that department swung.
But the point is this: Mick's making money from you, yeah? Okay? In some way, shape, or means, Mick's making money, so he's doing his job. When Jonathan King comes in and doesn't make money from you, surely that's a bad mark on Jonathan King.
Well, I don't know. He might have been. He probably had a few bands. Mick had a few bands. Who knows?
Right. So you could cover one across the other.
We were record company people. We only ever went in a record company twice. Once to sign the deal, and twice to have a word with Jonathan.
Yeah.
To ask why is things not going well.
Yeah.
Now, today, if you're in a department and you sack somebody, you've got to answer to, or get rid of somebody, you've got to answer to somebody higher than you, haven't you? Like the boss.
Yeah.
The boss even would come down and say, what's happened to Spookey? And I got rid of him. Why? And, it was just like, he just said, he's not interested. He don't think we're any good. Rare, tap. Plus, I think Bob upset him slightly before that.
I was just going to ask about the manager.
Because Bob, our manager, he wouldn't hold back. He was a very, straightforward, talking, sometimes arrogant man. So if he thought anyone was messing with, quote, his band, his lads, he'd really stick up for us in that sense. And sometimes, them days, you can't go up to London as a Mancunian and start telling the big boys what to do. And subsequently, when we walked out the recording company office, he said, never mind, lads, we'll get somebody else. Fair enough, that happened. We did a week or so. We started keep gigging, and we're trying to get the second record together.
Yeah.
Wait for that to happen. And we get a phone call that Mickey Most.
Mickey Most. Yeah, I know Mickey Most, yeah.
He used to do New Faces and things like that.
Yeah, New Faces, etc. Yeah, Tony Hatch, yeah.
He was like Simon Cowell of the day.
Yes.
So now we're all excited again because if he's interested, we are going places.
Yeah.
So, he'd get us on a recording company, get us on a new record deal and everything. So we're happy. So we all go down to London with Bob again. We're in the office. Large as life. Mickey Most is in there. He had mud. That's how we ended up touring with him. Because, we were on the tour with Mud. He managed Mud. They were big. And he's seen us.
Very big. Yeah.
Or heard about us somehow. So he wanted to sign the band. So, believe it or not, negotiations was right in front of us. Yeah, Bob and him were speaking. We're sat there like little lambs, gleefully. The deal was Bob had us on the contract for 5 years. By this time now, there's only 2 years left on it. Yeah. He signed us up right from 16, and now he's like 21. Yeah, 1981 or 80. Mickey Most is interested. Yes, let's go. The deal was sign the band over to Mickey Most. Yeah. Mickey Most will pay our manager £5 million. A man that's come from Jamaica, come to England. He started as a mechanic, grease all over him, to managing his own garage.
Yeah,
employing people, then managing have a sales garage selling Rolls Royces, Lamborghinis, and things like that. He's putting money into big house, putting money into the bands and things. They're failing. He's got Spookey. Spookey have done it for him. $5 million. He says to Mickey Most then, I don't think $5 million is enough.
No, come off it.
Yeah. He goes, $5 million not enough for my lads. You think we're behind the door because we've come from my side?
No, come off it.
I'm trying to just take off his voice. I apologize about that, but that's how he spoke. So Mickey Most says, how much would you want? He says, 15, 20 million.
No, he's a dreamer. He's a dreamer.
Mickey
what are you
Most,
guys saying? What are you saying?
We're just listening to this. I'm coming to what we're saying. Mickey Most says, if I pay you 20 million and the band flops, I've lost 20 million. I can't risk that. I'm willing to risk 5. Bob said, don't talk like a F, blah, blah, blah. You'll make more than 20 million. And with that now, an argument ensued, and we left the office. Bob stormed out of the office. Bob says, he says to me like, when you got your head together and you think, you can give me a call, and walks out of the office. Arrogant. We get up then, we look at Mickey Most, all 8 of us. He said, if you can get rid of him, lads, come and see me. And with that, we walk out. We never moved another muscle after that day. It's like he made a phone call. Nobody would deal with Bob. He's cursed out the recording.
Yeah, he's finished. Of course he is. It's Mickey Mouse you're talking about.
He's cursed out the recording company for in the wrong way, because you don't start shouting at boys. No. You just to regroup. But if people are phoning, oh, don't deal with Bob Young, don't deal with Bob Young. Mickey Mouse, one phone call, that's you dead.
Right. So for those people who didn't hear last week and should do, listen to part 1. Bob, to my mind, and I'm respecting you because I know you dealt with Bob much of your life, but to my mind, Bob did you a disservice with opportunity knocks. Yeah?
Yeah.
Right? And then he's gone in to the Spengali of music of the early 1980s, as you put it quite rightly. He is today's equivalent, the great Simon Cowell. And you're telling this guy to FF, I want 20 million for a band that frankly has not made it.
Correct.
Bob's in a dreamland. Did you guys not come together and say, listen, we got to get rid of Bob?
How can you?
Because you signed up.
We thought about it many a time, but we signed up for 5.
Oh, did you think of going to a lawyer, seeing we could get out of it via a lawyer?
Yes, no way. We couldn't get out of it. Even today, you sign a contract. I mean, we were young. You signed a contract fully aware of what we were signing, knew we was with it for 5 years. We just didn't think this man would do anything that would make us not want to be with him.
Well, Bob's losing money, isn't he? Bob's losing money. I mean, what did you ever ask Bob what his reasoning was? Because he's losing money, isn't he?
Well, you got to remember, he was like a dad to us. And to question him sometimes, you'd end up probably get thrown out of the band. That happened at one case. Some guy one of the lads was asking questions, and he didn't like it, so he convinced the other boys to get rid of him. But that's another story. Anyway.
Well, we'll hear that story. Let's hear that story.
Yeah, I will tell you. So, because we're nearly at that story. So we're there now, nowhere to go. If we don't play, Bob's got all the strings anyway. So the case of sticking with Bob, going where the agency's telling us, we'll probably start going less money. We've got no recording deal. We'll just be stagnant. Yeah. And that's what happens. When you're not doing anything, you just keep plodding on, We're playing at places. Within a year, it got so bad we were thinking of splitting up.
Right.
But then a Cool in the Gang tour came up.
Mm-hmm.
Got no recording company still. We've got nothing, basically. We're just on the road earning money. And Bob's trying to say he's trying to do this, trying to get this, trying to get that. But like I said, all doors were shut to him. So he was like a liability now.
Yes.
But we didn't know that at the time. We only know that. So with that now, we're thinking of splitting up ourselves. But then a tour came in for Cool in the Gang. So we decided to do that, and hopefully we'll get another deal somehow. Bob will sort something out. I will push on, get another single. So we did that. Within that now, we do get another producer to write us a couple of tunes, a double A side. One was called Friends and one was called On the Rocks.
So who was the recording studio with then that you got past Mickey Morse? Who did you record with?
Was it Pie?
Right, okay, Pie. Yeah. Why?
Oh, it might have been two. I think it was an independent label just coming up. But they used Pie Studio, like they used studio. Yeah. So I remember going in Pie Studio, recording with 2 guys. These were called Nick and Nick. Nick something and Nick something. We just used to say Nick and Nick. And they did the song. But then Marvin Gaye was in town and decides to produce the records.
Brilliant.
So that's how I ended up having a chat with Marvin Gaye after about staring in his face for about half an hour. Right. I struck bewildered. God's in the room.
Yeah. So what did Marvin say to you though? What did he explain anything about your music, about your content, about how
he didn't have to. He knew that we knew what we was doing.
Right.
And he knew where we was up to. But he's got no influence over nothing.
No, clearly.
I mean, maybe it would have been ideal if he'd liked the band and took us to America and whatever. But I don't. He was having problems himself.
Yeah, tax problems, which is why I went to Belgium.
His wife was splitting up and all that.
Yeah, he had tax problems, drug problems.
Drug problem, everything. So he would just happen to be in England and came down to what. And next thing I know, this man's in the studio, and then we're in the hotel afterwards, having a chat with him, and he's there producing our songs. Marvin Gaye's producing Spooky song. And
that showed up on the record, did it? Marvin Gaye.
I'm not sure. Right. I'm not sure because that record it didn't get released.
Oh, right.
Because by the time we've done the tour, this music's recorded, been mixed and recorded.
Don't tell me Bob spoiled it for you again.
Bob. We have a meeting and Bob calls the band. So said, "What's this about?" Me and the drummer.
Yeah.
Make our way there. We normally would go on all together, but for some reason, and you'll see why in a minute, me and the drummer turn up late.
Right.
Or at the right time, and they're already there.
Right.
I remember. Yeah, in Bob's office at his garage.
Plan against you.
But we just thought they just turned up a little bit before us or what have you. So they said the drummer, because he was asking questions for the year, disgruntled, making noise, and we was all keeping quiet for peace sake. We didn't have to speak because he was doing it all. He was like the spokesman anyway.
Yeah.
So, and we was always solid. To my dismay, Bob somehow convinced the other boys to get rid of him because he's causing trouble.
What is he asking about money? He's asking about money, the drummer?
Yeah.
I knew it would be.
Because we found out that he'd found a way to get into our bank account. Because although we had secured it off for 3 signatures, the bank that we was with, he was with that bank for years, so he knew the manager. So he just go to the manager and say, the lads are out of town. Lads are in Germany. My lads are in Germany. I need to send them some money. So he'd sign the check and the bank manager would give him the money, things like that. We didn't know that at the time. And at the time, we couldn't have done much about it anyway because we could have probably gone to court and said that man's made the bank manager or the bank manager should not give Bob
3 signatures.
The money. But I think at the time we wouldn't have got anywhere because the bank manager is only following instructions.
Yeah.
So, but 3 signatures, or sometimes what I used to do is you make us all sign and leave empty checks.
To be fair, Trev,
he's going to Germany.
To be fair, Trev, you've been saying Bob has done well for you, but I've got to tell you, and even to this day, you seem to be relatively loyal to Bob.
No, I'm not loyal to him.
But Bob's done your legs.
Yeah, but I'm crazy. At the time, you don't know.
Bob's been. No wonder Bob turned down the 5 million. He's been living off your back.
We all know now what he did was wrong and wasn't good. But at the time, you think he's doing well. So when he's turned down the 5 million, we've said to him, Bob, just take the 5 million. We'll sort you out later. No, he's not having it. You could have talked to him to blue in the face. He's single-minded. He's doing what he's...
Do you know what I suspect, Trev? Tell me if I'm wrong here. I'm suspecting that what Bob has done is that Bob has basically been embezzling from me the whole time. And what he fears is when Mickey Morse effectively takes you over when you pay the 5 million and they look back into your finances, they will see Bob's been stealing from you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why Bob's happy to let that money go. Because Mickey Morse lot, the first thing any sort of business guy is going to do, he's going to do his due diligence, isn't he? And he's going to start looking at what's happened, what is the money, what are these guys making, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And somewhere down the line, they're going to see what Bob's been doing. I don't want to call Bob down out of town because I don't know the fella, But I'm suspecting Bob, first of all, with Huey Green and then with Mickey Morse. I mean, two massive people. Basically, Bob has seen, I better sort this out, otherwise I get found out. My cash cow is gone.
Yeah, well,
that's what I'm suspecting.
Yeah, you suspected, right? But like you said, when you're in it, because you're getting embezzled, you don't know. It's after the fact. So when we realised, because we started asking these questions, we realised like we didn't have a great deal of money, and it wasn't a lot of money embezzled because we weren't making any big money. The first record didn't do anything. The second record kind of bounced about a top 100 and was due to do a third record. We're just plodding along. Bob's upset the recording company. Bob's upset the TV moguls and the music moguls. So we're stranded. By the time we don't know that, we're just doing our best, hoping.
Trev, listen, mate.
Then we realise that Bob is no good.
I've got to say, Trev, listen. £5 million back in 82, 83 is big money for a band. I don't care who you are. So basically, if Mickey Morse
wrong not to take it.
is willing to pay you £5 million, he thinks you can make big money. So there's got to be something somewhere that Bob's doing. I think Bob's doing something else. There's got to be, because that is. I mean, if Mickey Morse looks at you and thinks I can offer $5 million, he's got to be thinking I can make $20 million, right? He has to be. He has to be.
But when we was abroad, who knows what was coming in for our speakers?
That's what I'm saying to you, mate.
He probably was making more money.
That's what I'm saying to you, mate. That's exactly what I'm saying to you.
You wouldn't know
what are the tours that you were playing?
Everywhere.
What are your international record sales, etc.
Yeah.
This guy's probably making a lot more money than you think.
Yeah, but you know the record sales, it's got nothing to do with Bob or anything like that. The recording
what are the international sales though?
The recording company deal with it.
What has he done a deal with them?
The recording company.
Yeah, has he got paid? Is he getting paid first as your manager and then paying you off? Or how's it being worked?
Bob's got nothing to do with getting paid from the recording company.
Right, so they're paying you direct.
Invariably, the recording company is above board.
Yeah, but are they paying you direct though? Is what I'm saying. When you get
it goes into our bank account and we pay Bob and the agency. It's just that Bob could get money out of our account without us knowing.
There you go. And Bob's then paying, and the agents for your gigs abroad, Bob's negotiating these fees.
The gigs? Well, between the manager and the agent, they sort out your gigs.
Yeah.
And the recording company. If you had the A&R man, the manager, and the agent, they work together and do their part. So we've done our part. The recording company reneges on us. Yeah. Bob's upsetting a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the recording company, you know what I mean, we've gone. They always used to treat us proper.
Yeah.
They always used to pay us. We used to pay Bob. Bob worked for us.
The weak link is Bob.
Yeah. So we only realised Bob was the weak link when Mickey Morse, when we sat there. He wasn't a weak link in the recording company because the recording company didn't like us. Yeah. But we could see where Bob was a bit annoyed because we were when he walked out. But
again,
we had meetings before we got in the room, and things weren't good. We was there with Mickey Morse, and that's when we seen that Bob's not got us at heart. Yeah. Opportunity knocks now. He just came and said we had to sign the contract. He's pulling it, so we knew it was a bit nasty, but we could see where he was trying to protect himself because we might run off, and we didn't know that. And when someone came to us and said you ain't gonna win opportunity knocks unless you sign this contract, we was ready to sign it for 5 years. But Bob was like protected us, said, no, lads, they don't, it's too long, you're paying all your money. So you could see, even if we would have got against that, you could see where Bob was trying to protect us there.
I think he was protecting himself.
Yeah, but you could see where he had an argument protecting us. You know, somebody trying to take 5 year money for life rather than just 2. And we don't need it anyway. We've got recording, we can do that. We've got the exposure. So what if we come number 3? We've got the exposure. We were better than the other 2 as far as we're concerned. People will see that. So it was no biggie. We've got in the studios now. We're doing things. Mickey Mouse, that's when we saw the nastiness and the greed.
Yeah.
So By this time, like I says, Bob's upset everybody. We can't get no work. The agency must have sorted out a little tour for us. We do that, waiting on this music, the next single to come, double A side. Marvin Gaye producing it, and then we get a meeting call. This was halfway through the tour.
Yes.
So Bob's decided now that Mike's called into the show because we're asking questions now this last year. We've seen what he's like. We've seen what's not right. We're all getting grown men now, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He's threatened this, threatened that every time we speak against him. But one guy would not shut up. So like I said, we found out things were coming through our speakers in our vans and things because we just go through customs as a band, no questions asked.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, no. I can be taken to court and repeat this, no danger. And people have been in a lot of trouble, mate. I screwing out speakers and things like that, taking out weights, mate.
So this is what Bob's doing. No.
Well, you tell me, mate. So anyway, now, he gets rid of the drummer by persuading the lads. And I'm thinking to myself, at the time, how can the other 6 turn round and vote off the drummer who's talking up for us? He's right what he's saying. How is Bob convinced them that he's a trouble causer? Within 10 minutes of getting to the meeting, he is sacked, outvoted by the others.
Frightening.
They didn't tell me, asked me to come along and vote because they knew I would have said no because, he was my best friend.
He's your mate. Yeah.
He's me, all the lads in the band, he was me. We stay in the same hotels together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were friends before the rest of them.
Yeah.
And, me being me, I'm a bit loyal, stupid like that throughout life. They knew I would not agree to that, so they didn't even call me to the meeting.
Gotcha.
The other 6 are there plotted against Mike. Not me, Mike. So Mike gets up and walks. Carlton, I get up and walk. I'm going with him. They can go make their millions. I don't care. I am not turning my back on a friend for no amount of money, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I literally walked out knowing that I'm dead now. Music's no more unless I do some music with some other band. But I was not prepared to renege. To this day, I will not do that to someone. If me and you're soulmates, no amount of money, no amount of person can turn me off you. Unless you do something and then we part ways.
Yeah.
We were always all right. So I'm with all of it. I was going to say with anybody in the band, one of the singers I walked out with him, the guitar man, I don't know.
So what does your contract say? Does your contract say you can
get
just
fired?
sack him?
The band.
Right.
The band. Bob can't sack you. The band
have to do it. Got you. Yeah, hence
so
his
the band
meeting
sacked him, mate. The band sacked him. I voted 6-1. 6 of them voted him out. I obviously didn't vote it or would have said no. And he's the 8th. He can't withstand. So he walks. Then I immediately walk with him.
Yeah.
They turn and says, "You don't have to go, Trevor." I says, "I know, but I'm going."
Yeah.
And I walked out with that man. Would you believe?
So tell me this. Once you walked out, you said goodbye to the music industry altogether, or you went somewhere else?
I didn't mean to. What happened? I walked out thinking, that's it, find something else, who knows, but I've just walked out with me, mate. It's all fresh.
Yeah.
I've probably walked out and think, what did I just do? I could have stayed with the band and earned me millions. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I walked on a principle, mate. You get me?
Yeah. But how did the band do?
I'll tell you, the band now, they replaced the drummer. They had a drummer weighed up already.
Yeah.
So they have to now quickly get a guitarist together.
Yeah.
To replace me.
Yeah.
They're going back on tour in 2 days. Well, that's not hard. If somebody can learn 10 songs on a stage if they're professional enough. So they got some guy to do. I think there's a guy from London called Martin, and they got a guy called Tony Lindo, who used to be the old drummer's best friend. So the drummer wasn't best pleased when he realised his best friend, he taught him drums, is in his place. He thought he should refuse that job, let somebody else do it. So he stabbed him in the back. Shows you where I would not stab my mate in the back, but a friend of his who knew longer than me stabbed him in the back by joining Spookey, knowing that he would upset Mike. Anyway, band didn't last. They did the tour a couple of days and then split themselves.
Right.
It's like the backbone is gone.
Gone. Yeah.
But we didn't fit. Me and Mike didn't fit with the backbone, but it seems as though that's what happened. After
so did you sing? Did you sing at all in the band, or you just play guitar?
Yeah,
I mean, just
I used to sing, do the backup harmonies, and I used to sing the opening number sometime.
Right.
Just me and the 4 musicians.
Right.
And they warm up the crowd, and then there's 4 singers, and then I'd introduce the 4 singers on and take it from there. And then we just back them up with harmonies. So instead of having 4 singers, a lead singer and 3 harmonies, you could have like a lead singer and 5 harmonies.
Gotcha. Yeah. So is that how you ended up doing something with Sweet Sensation then?
Well, so I've walked out there, not knowing what I'm going to do. I start looking for work. I get in a few sessions. People are flying me up to London, putting me in a studio, say, do your thing on a record. After I've listened to it for a couple of minutes, I do my thing, I'm back home within the hour, couple of grand. I'm doing Go to London, play for 2 minutes. You can either play for 5 minutes or play for 3 hours, just depending on how good you are. Yeah. In general, though, I just go in and bang it out within like 20 minutes and back home on the flight. I could be gone in London by 12 o'clock and back home for 2 o'clock with 2-3 grand, So I did that for a couple of months. Then Sweet Sensation now, they split up.
Yeah.
Round about that time, Marcel decides that he's going to go on his own. Yeah. But before then, you remember what you're talking to me about last in part 1? Yeah. That bands usually split up and whatnot. Well, the 4 singers left the backing band.
Gotcha.
So the backing band now, Sweet Sensation, is left stranded. Right. We covered that. Like I said, we signed each other up, didn't we? Yeah. So the backing singers, the backing band, they're out. Sweet Sensation is cheaper to employ a band.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So then Marcel leaves. So there's only 3 singers. Marcel say he's going to be pop star. He fails because of his attitude and taking drugs and that. He ended up dying overdosed. He went from being a Michael Jackson style singer,
yes, absolutely,
to stealing a Twix and then dying of a drug overdose. That man,
unbelievable.
Sweet Sensation made money and could have made money, and Marcel King was like the answer to Michael Jackson.
The British answer.
The British answer to Michael Jackson. You know what I'm trying to say? So they brought in another singer to replace him, a guy called Ricky Patrick, and carried on. But they had no more singles neither. Yeah. They were living off Satsy Dreamer, and purely by coincidence. They're number 1 and number 2. Yeah. Because when they split up the recording company, it dropped. Marcel's gone with the recording company. The 3 singers now, they ain't got no recording company. Yeah. Marcel's gone with them. The backing band's gone. So the 3 lads get a singer and employ a backing man, which would have been cheaper anyway. Yeah. So when they get in the band together, they get the drummer out of Spookey, my mate. Yeah. So he must have said to him, Trevor's free, and they get me. Now, just before they get me, they get a guitar guy. So they've got a 4-piece band. They've got the drummer, they've got a new guitarist, they've got a new keyboard player, and they've got a new bass. Yeah. So Mike must have said to him, my mate's not working. I know you don't need him, but I want to, he must have thought, I'm going to get my mate a job. He walked out with me. Yeah. Somehow he's wangled them to have me. So now they're paying for guitarists they don't really have to. But I'm thinking, my mate, he wangled it for me. Little did I know, they didn't know I was free. And even though their accountants and everything said they can't pay the money, they can't afford me, the singers, they paid out of their wages to keep me. They thought I was that decent and good. So that's how I ended up with Sweet Sensation until it split up themselves, because nowhere going, nothing doing. They're all getting older, because me and Mike would have been younger than them. We're like the young boys of them. We're playing music. It's only afterwards somebody said, you know, we couldn't really afford you, Trevor, but the lads would trump up some of their wages and pay me.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I must have been doing something right with that guitar, eh?
So the problem is this though, that frankly, via poor management, you missed out on what could have been
a good life,
a long career and a good musical life.
It was not about the money for us. It was about the music. But we knew that if we did well in music, we'd get all the trappings of a good life. And you're looking to look, you know, like everybody's looking to look after his wife and kids, having everything, and live good, your family and everything, you know.
So you missed out on that.
Yes.
And you also missed out on opportunity, really, to move around in that sort of sphere, in that musical sphere, where you could have found others. Let's say if you'd have been in it a bit longer and you'd got your Mickey Mouse 5 million, and it's not the money, you just got the contacts. You'd have made a whole load of other contacts, but you could have picked up on, no doubt.
If we'd have signed with Mickey Mouse, if Mickey Mouse had took us on, think about it. If Simon Cowell takes you on today, I probably wouldn't even be speaking to you now, Carlton.
Yeah, could well be true. Could well be the case. Could well be the case. Well, hey, don't say that, mate, because I've been speaking to some big guys.
That was just a joke. That was just a joke.
I've been speaking to some big guys, mate. Yeah. But no, I know what you're saying. Joking aside.
Joking aside, right? We'd have gone sky high, mate. We'd have made money. Lived good.
Yeah.
I'm still probably playing music now. I look at
so
now.
Whose fault do you think that is? Take away Bob. Are you just not old enough? Are you not savvy enough? When I'm saying you, I'm talking the band now. Are you not savvy enough? What is it? What's allowed that to go down that route?
Well, what you got to remember as well, you know, when they had to split up, we couldn't carry on anyway because Bob had the contract. You know, you do what Bob says. This man was rude, you know. After he got rid of Mike and me, I think the other lads realised that they shouldn't have done it, and so they just stopped playing. They just split up. So Bob's got no contract now. If you split up, if you stay together, playing what the clubs are going down, you know, we're getting so much money now. Everything's getting stale. So they for whatever reason, I wasn't at that meeting. Obviously, I just heard that they split up. Now after that, we still saw each other. And was amicable. Even the drummer's amicable with him. How they could have looked him in the face, I don't know. But hey, we got on over the last 30 odd years or so. No arguments, no, you know, we just realised shit happens. Sorry to speak, to swear. But so everything's stagnant now. I was getting a bit of session work, but then joining Sweet Sensation tied me down again to like a job. So when Sweet Sensation now decided to split, the kids started to come along for me, and you know. I was just going to say, what happened to your life thereafter? How did you leave that life, basically, effectively? Everybody reacts different to things, and I didn't take it good, mate. Right. In the fact where I just didn't want anything to do with music. After Sweet Sensations folded and I sat down and for what I'm going to do, I just didn't want anything to do with music. Not because Sweet Sensation, that was a great time for a year, but the whole life, basically, before I left school was music. And then someone destroys that for me out of greed, ignorance, whatever, prejudice, the recording, racism. Even some clubs we used to go to, they didn't want us there. You know, there'd be 300, a crowd of 300, then you get a pack of 10 lads just throwing things at you, throwing stools, you know, throwing glass. The fights would break out in the place while you try to do your set. You know, it was a different world. Well, you've basically gone back down again, haven't you? You've fallen back down again. So what I decided to do is forget the music and get a job and live what we say a normal life. Some of the other guys toiled on, and used to get teased music junkie because they could never, you know, leave it. They're trying this, they're trying that, always talking what they're going to do, and they never do. Never got anywhere. You know, they may do a few gigs, here and there. But to this day, none of them ever really, took off again like they would have liked to. I know too, the drummer and the singer, they carried on and did bits and pieces, but everybody else just fell away and started getting jobs and things. And probably did music on the side, but I just totally dropped it.
And is that the story really of British soul? Is the story of British soul that the vast majority of lads, and I guess some women, so I guess some women girl bands, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I guess there's some girl bands. Is that the story, that basically it couldn't support you? Whereas in the United States, soul bands could be supported just by the vastness of the country, the places they could travel to, the fact that it was, concrete inside of the United States, the soul music.
Because, even to this day, you're not saying anything unless you break the States.
Yeah.
So back in our day, we just had to break England and then maybe break the States.
Yeah.
Go to the States. We never actually got to the States.
Yeah.
We went so near, but yet so far away. I always said we were a stone's throw away from stardom.
Yeah.
One conversation, or it only takes one conversation or one argument or one disagreement to ruin our career, and that's what happened. But most of us went and found work, started having kids, because none of us had kids at that time, getting married. A couple of lads stayed doing music for various things, but they ended up having to get jobs and doing it on the part side. Mm-hmm. But when we all get together, I explain it like this: no amount of money is worth what we had for 8-10 years. What we've done. You couldn't pay me for that. I'd do it again. I'd drop it back. You know what I mean?
Do it again.
It's not what we did, and incredible. The way we were all incredible. It was like having a big piss up with all your mates for 10 years and doing something that you loved. Yeah. Although we didn't drink, but we saw a lot. When we was in the band, we didn't drink, we didn't have no drugs. We were so clean. We knew what we wanted.
Brilliant. Whereabouts did you get to, Trev? What sort of countries, what sort of people? Who were the people in the industry who you met? Just give me some of those in closing, because we're coming to an end. Who were the people you... Obviously, you met Marvin Gaye. Who else did you meet? Give me some...
Well, I met Rod Stewart, met Muhammad Ali.
How did you meet Rod? How did you meet Rod?
We was... in Copenhagen, Stockholm. Right. Yeah, sometimes we was in Stockholm and he was gigging, and we got tickets, and we got VIP tickets, and we got introduced to him around the back. As up and coming group Spookey, because we was playing in Copenhagen.
As fellow musicians type of thing. Yeah.
And then we moved from Stockholm to Oslo, to Norway, and did Oslo, because so I remember that Rod Stewart, only a brief chat with him, and he's. Told us this, that, and the other. He says from Scotland. We're asking things like, can you still get Yorkshire meat pies and things like, daft things like that. I mean, like we've all been on the road. So he says, that place is there, Fleet, with the chip and fish. I said, yeah, it's still there, Rod. Daft things like that. Because he's not been in New England for ages. Met. You
say Ali? How did that come about?
Oh, he was at a club with a manager in London. He knew this manager. And this manager owned the club, and he was just in London, and he's come in the club, and we were playing that night, aren't we? So I run over and asked him for an autograph. Right. And with a piece of paper and a magic marker, what I just grabbed from the back of the bar. And he just took a cigar out of his pocket and signed that. And I ended up giving that to my cousin, who I love so much, that cigar. He begged me for it. Anyway, off the top of my head, some of the people, Johnny Wilde, I even met Rod Temperton. He wrote all Michael Jackson songs. Sylvester. You just meet lots. Some people I have forgotten more than I can remember. Bubbling Brown Sugar, Amy Stewart. Theatre. There was a company called Bubbling Brown Sugar from America that was they were in West End, London, doing soul musical theatre called Bubbling Brown Sugar. That was a very good show to go and watch. Well, they ended up choreographing a guy called Charles something Agnavois. He ended up choreographing Spooky to go on shows and things like that. So we met quite the casting there. And they were like ex-singers of Shy Lights, ex-singers, daughters of Bleeding Temptation, you know, things like that. Bubbling Brown Sugar, look them up. They did West End for years and Broadway, you know, things like that. Bubbling Brown Sugar, all black. They were like a machine for black musicians, actors to come through. You know, if you're getting Bubbling Brown Sugar, that's a good few years' work. Then you move on. You know what I mean? Yeah. We played in all Europe. No, from Norway, Sweden, right down to France, in North Africa. We even went to Dubai, Saudi.
So Dubai in the early years. That's interesting.
Yeah. Them days there was no drinking, it was behind closed doors. If you had to, you know, like we got over there for the British contingent. Yeah. But there was no alcohol. You had to do that in your hotel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in those days, yeah. No, so you got around, mate. You got around. So music was good to you.
Yeah,
it was good to you.
We earned the money on the road. It's just that the record we're not earning money record-wise. Not that you would, because whoever writes a song gets like 90% of the into the pound. This is how it works. Whoever writes a song, my friend, gets 90% in the pound. 7% or so goes to the recording company, and about 2% goes to the band. You with me? All we get is recording performance rights.
Well, yeah, and that's where a lot of bands made their money, making the studios. Yeah, the big stadiums, playing the big stadiums. They made the money.
That's where we make our money, but we don't get much off records.
Yeah.
It's only if you sell if you get in 7% of a 100 million seller, then you're laughing. If you get 7% of 100 seller, it's nothing. You get more of the money you get if your record sell. But whoever writes the record, mate, gets the most money. It's there, right? So we weren't making any money really on record. It was all live.
Performances,
And we was getting good money, all said and done, live, because we'd got a record contract. We'd had a single.
And you put a show on.
And we're putting a show on, and people would rebook us because, you know, we thought it was decent. And that's how so like I said, after Sweet Sensation, I down tools, started working, kids started coming along, marriages and things. And 30 years on, like I said, someone's partner said to me, why don't you pick the guitar up again? And I did. So I've been just tinkling now.
So tell me one more thing. Has anybody in the family taken up the music bug? And if they did, or if they were going to, what would you say to them?
Right. No one in the family has ever, before me and after me, is gone musical.
Right.
And if anybody, put it this way, I'd answer that question by saying, everyone should play music. Everyone should find an instrument and play it. Yeah. You know, it does so much for your mind, your soul, your body. I can sit with my guitar and just start tinkling, and before I know it, 3 hours have gone, and I think it's only half an hour. Yeah. Could you get
but would you tell them to do it for a job, though?
Right, for a job. If that's what they wanted to do, yeah. I'd explain to them how it is. But if they wanted to do it, I'd be right behind them.
Yeah, and finally, because we're closing through, I know one of your lads has gone into another sort of popular industry as such, in terms of sport.
Well, like I said to you, you know, back in the day I learned to do judo, and then I went on to boxing, then I went on to karate like yourself, and then I did kickboxing. And kept myself fit. So I used to take my lads to the gym. So to this day, I've got 6 boys, they all keep fit, but one, the youngest one, is a professional boxer. Similar to me, he goes on stage. At the minute now, he can't give free tickets, so to speak. Every ticket he sells, he gets a percentage. Sometimes he doesn't make the percentage, but the managers top him up, sponsors top him up.
Yeah. And that's just as difficult a game, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've had a boxer on here. I've had a
just like me.
I've had a boxer on the show, and he talks about all the stuff that goes on about the home corner, getting advantage, etc., etc. So it's no different than in many ways in that music industry. If you're not in the know and the manager's not right, and you don't get your chances. He was doing prize fighter, so he did that. This lad I had on.
Well, my son, fortunately for him, he had about 85 amateur fights. Nearly fought for England, nearly made the Olympics. And out of 85 fights, he only lost 11, and some of them were like dodgy. I've seen he's battered the lad all over 3 rounds, and it's home away. He's got it. So with that record, they decided to sign him up. Someone took him on. Like Bob would take on the band, someone took him on. No big promoter took him on. If a big promoter takes you on, they can't look after you. They're looking after the big boy. They send somebody to look after you. So the promoters have sent this lad called Steve to look after him. He's been professional now myself for 4 years, but only been fighting for 2 because of COVID.
Yes,
and he's on 12 wins, no losses, and he's had about 8 stoppages. And he's international champion as we speak. He's looking to have a British title fight. But until he's down, what his problem is, if they get him the fights, he must win.
Yes.
As you know, there's common sense. There's no room to be getting beat.
No.
If he's going to get beat, now's the time to get beat. But once he starts getting like British title standards or European title standards or world title, you know, once you get them crowns, you can't afford to get beat or else. But at the minute now, thankfully, he's not been beaten, and he's just doing his job. It's up to the managers now and a lot of people around him to do their job. Well, things are not as bad as they were back in the day, and we keep our eye on him. His trainer, who's had him since 9 and he's now 24. He's like his dad, second dad. He assures me for all these years that he's got his interest at heart. And then he had the manager, he liaisons with the promoter and so forth. But my son has done his job each time, got in the ring and done his job.
Good.
So,
excellent. He might want to listen to my podcast with Cello Render, who was in Hatton's stable. And in Ricky Hatton's stable, and he's famous for the one thing. He got to a couple of semi-finals in Prize Fighter, finals in Prize Fighter. But his fame is, and you'll remember this if you're a boxing fan at all, the famous double knockout. If you remember the famous double knockout they used to show on Sky, where they both knock each other out at the same time.
Yes, that was it.
Right? That's the lad I had on the show.
Oh my!
Cello Render. Yeah. He's one of those 2 guys who they're so knackered both, and they both hit each other at the same time and knocked each other out at the same time. Yeah. Well,
Carlton, one day, if you want to speak to my son, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get him on the show. There's always room for another boxer on the show, no doubt.
Yeah, well, he's a young boxer and he's not even there yet, so he can tell you what his climb is and how he's got there.
That's what I'd love to hear. So we'll put that in cold storage, and we'll definitely bring him on board. Listen, Trev, I'm going to have to say thank you very much. It's 1 hour and 12, so I like to keep the show to about an hour. But of course, things
you do your thing, sir.
Yeah, things just fly through, as you know. They just fly on. But it's been absolutely fantastic. I've got to say, mate. You were on your way, and from what I hear, my view of it is that you've been very positive towards Bob, from my perspective, because Bob, to my view, and listeners can think for themselves. I'd be interested to hear if listeners want to write in and say what they think. I think Bob maybe took a life away from you, mate, that could have been a little bit more rosy. But life is life, and that's what it is, and we all learn from it.
You can't cry over spilt milk.
You can't, mate.
I just got on with it and happy today. You
absolutely.
Can't be bitter. If you just stay bitter for 30 odd years.
No, mate, you don't want to stay bitter for 1 year, do you, to be fair?
The only time I remember it is when people like you want to interview me about it. Or apart from that, it's never on my mind. I'm too busy enjoying my life now.
Absolutely, bud. That's what it has. So, but ladies and gentlemen, what a fantastic show. once again to hear from Trevor Williams, the way of how his life went in the music industry, the British soul industry, which then actually really took a completely different turn and worked in a completely different way. We see the lads. In fact, one of the guests I had on, as I said before, was Asher D from Soul Solid Crew, who's now a very famous actor, who probably picked up some of that mantle that you dropped down, but they did it in a completely different way in terms of the way they dealt with rap music. So, Trevor, listen, thanks for your assistance. Thank you for the soul assistance.
I always say, to cap it off, I always say to people, we were the One Direction of the day. We paved the way for One Direction. And
that's the one there.
Blue. And people like that, yeah.
That's the one there.
Real Thing, Sweet Sensation and Spookey. And there was another band called Delegation, because they even did that song by Ken Gold, and that flopped. Someone ought to write a song. So Real Thing didn't have it. We had it, and Delegation, and they were from like West Birmingham.
Right.
I can remember we were the only four really, and we sort of like paved the way for the bands you see today. But fair enough.
Yeah. All good, mate. All good. Great memories. And you had a great time. And that's the other thing. You had a great time.
Thank you, sir.
So don't knock that. Thank you very much, my friend.
Bye
Ladies
now.
and gentlemen, we'll see you again.
Love to speak to you.
Thanks, Trev. We'll see you again next week.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for free.
Here is a working class spy telling his stories, the secrets, the lives of spies. Feel free to message Carlton King on all socials and give this show 5 stars on Apple iTunes and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. For your ears only.
For almost a quarter of a century, I was a member of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service.